South Korea, a place known for its beautiful scenery and kind people. But there are always exceptions, like on May 26, 2023. What would it feel like to kill someone? It's a thought that might flicker through anyone's mind for a split second before being pushed away by conscience, by empathy, by our basic humanity. But what happens when that thought doesn't get pushed away? What happens when curiosity becomes obsession and obsession becomes action? That line was crossed in the most brutal way imaginable. 23-year-old Jung Yoo Jung didn't kill for money, revenge, or passion. She killed, as she later confessed, simply to see what it would be like. 23-year-old Jung Yoo Jung posed as a middle schooler on a tutoring app. She messaged dozens of tutors, but she wasn't looking for lessons. She was looking for a victim. When a 26-year-old woman responded offering English tutoring, Jung knew she'd found what she was really searching for. Jung had planned to meet at the victim's house to study. She arrived dressed in a Korean school uniform, her small stature making the disguise perfect. The tutor genuinely believed she was welcoming a middle school student into her home. But Jung hadn't come to learn. Hidden somewhere on her person was a knife, and she had come with a single, chilling question she was determined to answer. What would it feel like to take someone's life? What happened next was not a crime of passion, but a methodical act of violence. Jung stabbed her victim over 100 times. For Jung, this wasn't murder born from anger or desperation. It was an experiment, and the woman who had opened her door out of kindness had become the subject of her deadly curiosity. The day of the murder, Jung Yoo Jung entered the victim's apartment disguised as a middle school student seeking tutoring for her supposed daughter. But according to her initial confession to police, Jung claimed there was an argument during the lesson and she killed the victim impulsively. But this was a lie. After being arrested and questioned for 4 days, Jung finally admitted the truth to her family and police. On May 31st, she confessed that she had been interested in crime programs and had developed an impulse to kill, wanting to actually commit murder. She had been searching online for topics like perfect murder without a body since February, looking for potential victims. Jung had prepared a weapon in advance. The moment she entered the victim's home, she attacked, stabbing the victim over 20 times, focusing particularly on the neck area, knowing it would be fatal. This wasn't impulsive rage. This was calculated murder. After the brutal murder, Jung didn't panic like you'd see in the movies. She didn't run. She didn't break down. Instead, she went into full damage control mode. But here's where this case crosses into something truly nightmarish. Jung changed into the victim's clothes before leaving the apartment. Let that sink in for a moment. She had just brutally stabbed this woman over 100 times. And then what does she do? She goes through her victim's closet and puts on her clothes. Think about the level of psychological detachment that requires. This isn't just murder. This is identity theft in the most literal, horrifying sense. Jung didn't just take this woman's life. She tried to step into it, wearing her skin like a costume. What kind of person looks at their victim's dead body and thinks, "I'll take those clothes too"? It's the kind of detail that makes your skin crawl, because it reveals something fundamentally broken. about how Jung saw other human beings, not as people, but as things to be used, even in death. Jung left the apartment and headed straight home to grab a black suitcase, like she was packing for a weekend trip. But this wasn't amateur hour. Jung hit up multiple stores, buying garbage bags and bleach with the efficiency of someone running errands. 10 minutes in and out, she knew exactly what she was shopping for. Here's where it gets really dark. Jung dismembered the victim's body to make it fit in that suitcase. Think about that level of cold calculation. But here's the weird part. For all her planning, Jung started making bizarre decisions, going back and forth between her place and the victim's apartment, like she couldn't stick to a plan. Around 1 a.m., Jung called a taxi to the Nakdongang, the Nakdong River. Now, in Korea, this is beyond suspicious. Rivers at night are basically ghost towns. Nobody goes there after dark, especially not alone with heavy luggage. The taxi driver immediately knew something was off. Watching this young woman struggle with a heavy suitcase, disappearing into the darkness by the water. 20 minutes later, same woman, same suitcase, except now she's carrying it like it's empty. In a country where people mind their own business, this was so bizarre that the driver couldn't ignore it and called the Gyeongchal police. When officers found blood on Jung's suitcase, she tried one more lie. "Oh, I had a baby and killed it." The courts weren't buying Jung's attempts at manipulation either. In December 2023, she was sentenced to life in prison, a sentence that was upheld by South Korea's Supreme Court in May 2024. No parole, no second chances. Jung Yoo Jung will spend the rest of her life behind bars, but the questions her case raises will haunt us much longer. How many others are out there, scrolling through victim profiles, planning their own experiments in murder? And in a world where violence has become entertainment, how do we spot the ones who want to make the leap from watching to doing? The woman whose clothes Jung wore, whose identity she tried to steal, will never get her life back. But at least Jung Yoo Jung will never get the chance to satisfy her deadly curiosity again. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is Crime and Rescue.